Hey, everyone. How are you doing? Thanks. I'm from Harlem, so we do this kind of call and response thing. It's not just in crypto. So that feels good. It makes me feel like I'm home. All right, let's rock. Boom. OK, so this is a New York Times article. And we're here at this amazing event talking to other devs, all kinds of devs, even 150 devs who wouldn't normally be here, who are making this conference awesome by being here, thanks to those sponsorships. I got to speak to someone during lunch who's from St. Louis. And she just talked to me about what it's like being here, these events that seem to plague the city. People come from outside and have their own views. And if you are here and you have the opportunity to talk to someone who is from this town or outside this area, please do, whether they work at one of the conference centers or they're an attendee. I work with marginalized people all around the world, protecting them from digital threats. And there are some places where I work where you cannot protest. And it's frightening. So as much as it's an inconvenience or it's something that we talk about, it's probably one of the most American things that you can do. So OK, opportunity grants. Has anything to do with my talk, but I just want to put our hands together for the people who are around us who got these grants and were able to come. You make this conference better. Technology isn't like a thing anymore. It's like the blood that flows through every part of the world, all countries, all places. We don't have any space for not bringing people in. We need people who are older. When you go to a tech conference, you should see people who are in their 60s and 70s walking around too, because that'll be you in the future. If there's no place for those people, there's no place for you. There should be all kinds of people, queer people, intersex people, all kinds of folks, those are my people. Because you know what? When I was going into the tech, there was no opportunity. It was just a weird hobby. When I got into hacking, it was just something I liked to do, and I had to put it away. There wasn't like a Facebook or a Google to go to. And luckily, my weird hobby turned into the thing that kind of runs the planet, so woo, OK. But we need everyone to be part of that. And we need tech to be a lot bigger and a lot more open than it is. We need to kind of blow the doors off of it. And I can see that in the people that I've met at Strange Loop over the past 2 days. It's pretty amazing, Like, I'm used to going to hacker conferences. At a hacker conference, there's like only one type of human, let alone any other thing, right? Like, it's just a hoodie-covered person who needs to take a shower, All right, let's move on. OK, are you aligned with the work you do? I didn't think about that before. I would just go to an interview because it was like a cool place to work. And then, they have, how it is. You're like an 8-hour interview, It's like an interrogation, whiteboards and tech challenges, and then like a tech challenge maybe like over the phone. And then you get the offer letter. And you're like, oh, sweat. They actually are giving me what I asked for, right? So you sign that offer, and you meet these cool people. But then after a year or 2 years, it's not so cool anymore. And every place has their expiration date where you choose between being a lifer or moving on. And then you start that process over and over again. But for what work? Like, what are we doing that for? Just to get a higher salary? I mean, are we really being challenged? If you are being challenged at your job and you really enjoy that stuff, then stay there. But make sure that it's a place that's aligned with you, what you believe. And I found that the work I was doing was not aligned with me. And so I made a change. And that's what I'm going to talk to all you about, just about this little trap door that isn't easy to find. This trap door that I had to find and figure out, I'm just giving you my secrets. So if any of you need to take it, it'll be right there for you. More like an elevator. Has anyone gone to one of those social good hackathons? Put your hands up if you have. Anyone, right? And then keep your hands up if you actually tried to maintain that thing you worked on afterwards. Good sir, you're awesome. It's hard. We're busy people. Not only do we work like Amazon employees, but no shade, Amazon. But we have lives. We're trying to have relationships, and we're socially awkward people, right? So how can we find time to do this stuff? Nights and weekend projects usually go astray. That GitHub repo with all that activity, all those green blocks disappear and turns gray. It's pretty sad. But there's a better way. I figured it out, and I'm sharing it with you. Public interest technologist. It's a thing. What is a public interest technologist? Well, in law, there's this thing called a public interest lawyer. You know, I'm the child of immigrants, and if anyone here has an immigrant or refugee parent, all they want is you to become a doctor or a lawyer. That's all they want, right? Because to them, that's what a professional is. They don't know about engineers in code or DevOps or, people do penetration testing and all this other stuff like that, right? In law, lawyers just went to work for people who had tons of money. And it wasn't until the 60s and 70s in this country that lawyers actually worked for the public good. Lawyers started working more into the Department of Justice. Lawyers started working more as all kinds of attorneys in different communities, right? That wasn't by accident. We had this totally weird 60s and 70s, political turmoil, assassinations left and right, all kinds of things going on in the world and in this country. But it was the funding of organizations like Ford Foundation and others that allowed this to be a real practice. They allowed you to just sign up to be a public interest lawyer, and then they would help you get to law school. And then they would help you get a position afterwards. And public interest law firms, there's lots of them now, and that's all because of that. And those same people are interested in something called a public interest technologist, because they see all these great minds. It's like a brain drain. You know, when I travel around the world, I'm like, hey, where are your computer scientists? They're like, oh, they're at MIT. They're not here, you know? That's what happens with our great minds. They go to Facebook and Google and Amazon. No shade, y'all, all right? They don't go to ACLU. They don't go to Southern Poverty Law Center. They don't go to these other amazing places. Because how do you do that anyway? Like, is it going to be like a hackathon where I'm going to spend all my time and get no money? And I'm going to work on really simple challenges that aren't really great, and I'm not going to be respected in my field? There's no path. And someone needs to push ahead and make that path for us. OK, so who am I? I'm a Mozilla Open Web Fellow. I'll tell you more about fellowships. I was at this place called Color Change, which is a civil rights organization in the United States. But they're unlike NAACP and other civil rights organizations. They're one that's totally about tech, inside and out, from day one. I'm an Internet Freedom Festival Fellow, and that's a conference that I hope to see many of you at, and I'll talk more about it later. I'm a New America Cybersecurity Initiative Fellow, and all these things are going to expire, so I got to start to find some new things, right? But I got the Institute for the Future still. Woot, woot. I'm a Future for Good Fellow, and that's still going on. I'm an advisor to the Open Technology Fund, and I'll talk to you more about what that is. And I'm a developer and a data journalist, and I used to work at the New York Times. I'm a hacker, and I work for the benefit of civil society, nonprofits, NGOs. Put it together, people. Help them out. Thank you. Bitcoin's heading your way, sir. Nonprofits, NGOs, human rights defenders, that's who call me on an hourly basis, right? I'm the founder of an event called Crypto Harlem. Harlem, anybody? No? OK, just checking. That's a little too quiet, I knew. OK, so this is where Crypto Harlem happens. And I started Crypto Harlem quite a few years ago. I thought, there's a lot of crazy things going on. And especially where I am, where I live, I should do something. So I went to this community center, and I said, hey, can you give me some space to talk about the dangers of surveillance, digital safety, digital security, and all that kinds of stuff, so all the tinfoil hats can see that they're not alone, right? And they were like, yeah, let's do it. And then it blew up. And I'm going to show you how to have a slide just like that. That's what I'm going to do. I'm giving you the recipe to slides like this one, OK? Because I need some company, all right? I'm an operational security and information security trainer at this organization called Global Journalist Security. They're a for-profit entity that does hostile environmental emergency first aid trainings. If you're a journalist and you're going to cover, Maria or one of these hurricanes, you need to know what to do if someone falls to your left or right. If you go to Syria or Afghanistan, Iran, or even just a protest down the street, you need to know what to do if things go sideways. And global journalist security, they simulate that. You go to their campsite, you're hanging out with other reporters, then all of a sudden, in the middle of the night, someone comes and takes you, puts a hood over your head and throws you in a car. You know? You've been kidnapped. Because they know that we're all intelligent people, but when stuff happens, we act really stupid. And if someone doesn't take you there to that horribly stressful place, you don't know if you're crying all the time or laughing all the time or whatever, but it's not the right thing. And you need to train that version of you, that kind of 10-year-old you, what to do. And I work with them creating digital threats so I can train journalists, activists, human rights defenders what to do when they're phished, or their phone gets spoofed, or some other thing happens. Because if you don't make it real, it's just another thing that you're supposed to do. You don't realize that that bulletproof vest and that helmet and that press badge is all you have between life and death. I'm also a digital safety and security coach for the Movement for Black Lives, which is an organization of 50 organizations, kind of an umbrella group. Inside that group are all these groups that are committed to helping black folks in the United States. Some of them you know, like Black Lives Matter. Some of them maybe you know, maybe you don't, like Black Youth Project 100. But when they have anything that they need assistance on in the digital realm, I'm there to help them. Because I self-identify as black, and it's in my best interest, but also because I care. And I've done that for environmental activists, because I'm a vegan, 16 years. I saw that long veggie line, so my veggie people, right? Well, let me take you back. Let me take you back to where it all started, okay? Let's rewind. I was a little kid with an afro, right? I talked about my immigrant parents. They wanted me to be a professional, but I just loved comic books and Star Wars. That was my thing, you know? And I just wanted a computer, but they couldn't afford it, so they got me a computer magazine subscription. So I read it every day. It was called Compute, if anyone's old enough to remember that thing. Compute heads, woot, right? And everything in there was like in assembly. It was like, you know, so you had to like write, I used to write the code in a little graph paper and pretend I was typing it in to my imaginary computer. And if I could beg, borrow, steal some time on one of my friends' computers, I was doing crazy stuff, you know? They were like, whoa, I got the high score in like, you know, summer games. And I was like, yeah, that's nothing, you know? Because of that need, you know, that curiosity, I was like running with weights on, and when I had a computer, I was flying. And I became a hacker, but I had a career-ending injury, which is I'm an empath. If you trip and fall, I don't laugh, I worry about you. I can't steal people's computers, software, files, money. Cybercrime just was like not for me, and back when I was a hacker, that was like the #1 and only thing to do. So I just put that away. Let's fast forward a little bit. I was too small. February 26th, 2012 is a date that changed my life forever. I didn't even realize how much it would change me, but when I look back, that's kind of like when it all started. That's Trayvon Martin and his dad. Trayvon Martin died February 26th, 2012. And I heard about it on like some random tweet. Like, it was not covered in the media, it was not in the news. But that was like the first time that people realized, hey, we can do more than citizen journalism. We can take stories and just push them up to social media. Algorithms were a lot easier, and that's what happened. And, you know, it was all over the news. I was looking for a new job, and I thought, I need to get away from all this stress. So I got a job at CNN. I don't know what I was thinking, okay? It was like I'm working, and every day I'm hearing all these stories about this case and more new details and things like that, you know? And it's kind of weird when you're a marginalized person, whether you're older in tech or a woman in tech or black in tech, there are going to be things that happen in this world, you know? And when these things happen, you're going to be affected, but your coworkers, it's not impacting them the same way. You know, when you hear about a venture capitalist that's sexually harassing people, that affects you, but it doesn't affect your coworkers. And it was very frustrating for me because I was just trying to do a great job, you know, do my mobile web stuff and do my mobile stuff and, you know, be a great engineer. And, you know, I was in the newsroom around all this stuff constantly as a data journalist. It was very tricky. It's kind of painful. And then on the day of the verdict in New York's Union Square, I felt like compelled to go. But none of my coworkers were going, you know? In fact, I was kind of like, couldn't even talk to them about like, do you want to come? So if you have a friend at work, even if something weird happens that's super embarrassing, if you feel that it might impact them, I'm giving you permission to say, hey, can we talk about this thing that happened? Do you have any feelings or thoughts about it? Because it makes all the difference in the world. Because the people we work with, just because we got the same interview that they did and we passed it like they did, we see them more than the people we love. We see them more than people we hate. In this world, working like an Amazon employee, we see them more than anything. So let's treat them like human beings, you know? Not just people at the stand-up. A little bit further on in that same year, Edward Snowden flees to Hong Kong, and the Snowden revelations start to pour out. And it's like an earthquake in the hacker, digital security, digital safety space. All the activists I know were like, whoa, all those crazy, paranoid, tinfoil hat people were right. You know? And I need to book a ticket to Hong Kong, you know? For me, these two events came too close to each other, and I was reeling. What kind of world did I live in? Everything seemed to not make sense. So I started this thing called Crypto Harlem. I wanted to talk about the Snowden revelations. I wanted to talk about police violence. And I thought, who better than the people who look like me in my community? So after work, even though I worked like pretty late, I would go to the community center and try to do this thing 12 times a year. I would spend 3 hours walking around, because in Harlem, you can't put stuff on Meetup. It just doesn't work that way, you know? I tried, actually. So, you know, I had to go to the barbershop. I had to go to the salon. I had to go to the pastor at the church and the imam at the mosque. And I gave them my flyer and I talked to them, you know? I talked to the little grannies and I said, it's a free computer class, you know? To the brothers on the corner, I was like, hey, this is how you keep people out of your phone. Because to me, digital safety and encryption, that's a right. It's like literacy. And whatever you do with it, it's up to you. If you want to read fantasy books all day or if you want to read medical books, that's up to you. But you need to know how to be digitally safe. And we're all walking around clueless. You know, I was at this talk earlier today with Garrett and Yan, and they were blowing minds. Because as developers, from when we write our first hello world to when we're making 6 figures, and you know, we don't know anything about application security. And we're totally clueless. And that's what it's like with the regular folks walking around. You know, they don't know anything about how easy it is to pull their data away and who's doing it. I mean, I know, because I see them at a conference every year. So then I got this job. I left CNN. I got this job at the New York Times. And I thought, OK, fresh start. Everything's cool. Things seem to be chill. Now I can try to like be my best self and commit myself to my work. But right after that, I started going to these conferences, you know. At the Times, I found that like a lot of reporters, they were like, hey, should I email this to this source and things like that? And it was right after the Snowden revelations, really. Like, the impact was just still hitting people. People didn't know what to do. And as a hacker, I just was screaming, no, 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 you know? So even though I'm there writing stuff in Ruby, I'm like, yo, we need to talk about encrypting your email. We need to talk about the best way to send this file. So, you know, one person talking to me at lunch turned into 2 people, turned to 3 people. Then I was the most popular person going out like to the bar, telling people how to encrypt their stuff. You know, the Committee to Protect Journalists and the Reporters Committee for Freedom of the Press invited me to their events. And I attended and met other people who work in news and other people who work with dissidents and human rights defenders, and they were making a real impact. But then I would leave that and go back to work, you know, and I would take a look at what was in my queue and take a look at like what was in the repo and take a look at our roadmap and just kind of continue that. And it felt really, didn't feel right, you know? It didn't feel like I was making the same impact. I was building sandcastles that were literally going to be washed away the next day. And then Michael Brown died. That's when I couldn't take it anymore. And that's when I thought, I have to do something. What good is this knowledge of technology and this ability to do these things if I'm just sitting at a standing desk all day? And even though every other week, you know how it is, right? I hope you got the little soft thing underneath. Make sure you get that, all right? Every other week, I had a little reminder why I was doing it when the paycheck dropped, you know? But it wasn't enough. It felt like I was like, you know, not doing the right thing. And that's what I mean with not being aligned with your work. Like, I'm not going to tell you what to believe. I'm not going to tell you what causes to fight for. But whatever it is that makes you different from the other people at work or the developers next to you, that's the thing that you have to make sure you're aligned with, you know? Give to that thing. Even if I don't agree with your politics, it does not matter. You are gifted with technology, and it's not just a way to get a paycheck. It's bigger than that. So let's say I convinced you, you know? Matt, the recruiter, right? And some of you are thinking, yeah, I felt that way sometimes, or, okay, I'll give it to you. Like, I want to get started right away. I had something kind of going, like Skunkworks on the side, and I think it's going to make a difference in the world. It's going to help people. I would recommend that you take it to the Open Tech Fund. Take pictures, people. Although these will get posted and the video will get posted, right? Open Technology Fund is part of the State Department. It's from BBG, which is like the kind of like governor's thing, and they Radio Free Asia, Voice of America, that kind of like, hey, America's great type of stuff. That's that same area, that same funding. But Open Tech Fund is different. Open Tech Fund is here to make it very simple and easy to fill out a web form because you have an idea that's going to help people outside the United States. Something that has to do with tech, something that's open source, something that's lightweight and it can like fly. And they will fund it. You know, when I was first starting on this venture, I was like, well, you know, do I need to go to a venture capitalist? Do I need to find someone who works with social good stuff? No, no, no. I mean, they're out there, but that's not the path to success. Who here uses this app called Signal? Anybody heard of it? Oh, those hands go up. People who don't have it, go install that. You're allowed to like just install it right now. Open Tech Fund gave Moxie the first funding for Signal. Signal is a free app because it's run by a very small team of like 4 committed people, maybe 5, right? Depending on what day it is. And they're very lightweight, and it's very smart. And the double ratchet encryption schema of Signal crypto is amazing. And it's so amazing that Moxie is able to take it to other places like WhatsApp or Google and charge them, you know, for working and teaching them how to do this and how to implement it, you know? And that's how this app stays free. If you're ever using an app, know the politics of the people who use it, you know? If it's a dreadlocked anarchist, it might be pretty good, you know? Know where the money comes from, because that makes all the difference. Because we all know what it's like when you're sitting on all that user data and things aren't working out, you know? Open Tech Fund will give you up to $900,000 and as little as $10,000. So you got to ask for at least $10,000, okay? So aim high. Your average grant goes out is $300,000. I don't know how much you make every year, but I think that's enough to make you okay. That's enough for you to think about maybe using this trapdoor. There's another thing called the Open Knowledge Fund, or Open Knowledge International, and it's the German version of the Open Tech Fund, funded by the German government. And the application is in German, and you or someone on your team needs to be a German resident. But if you're able to do that, you can get, again, $300,000 for your app. You don't just get money. You also get people who are going to give you, in pen testing, and security testing, and other people who are working to help you make this the best it can be to help people, people who need it desperately. Then, if that's a little too much, you feel a little weird taking that much money, there's a group called Fight for the Future, and they have this thing called A-teams. And if you are an A-team, it just means that you're someone who's going to make technology or some kind of activism or some kind of thing to make an impact, because this administration is different from others, and you're going to challenge that. You will receive $15,000 for filling out a web form about your idea. Why not try it? Get it off the ground. How's this talk going so far, by the way? Good? Yeah? All right. Cool. Thank you. No, seriously, thank you. OK, if you want to leave your job or take a sabbatical, you just want to try out this thing I'm talking to you about, right? Because that's crazy, right? You're on the line. You have this app idea, hundreds of thousands of dollars given to you by some nation state. Maybe you want to just try it a little different, right? You want to make sure you wake up every morning, all right? You don't want Angela Merkel, you took my money, right? OK? There's this thing called net gain. And net gain is a collection of funders, foundations, working together for the first time ever on one thing, which is creating public interest technologists, right? Net Gain Partnership is Ford Foundation, John D. Catherine T. MacArthur Foundation, John S. and James L. Knight Foundation, Open Society Foundation, and Mozilla. All those organizations are funders. Mozilla is a nonprofit that owns a for-profit. The Mozilla Firefox OS, was OK, but also Firefox browser and other projects and initiatives Mozilla funds. You'll see Mozilla stickers and conferences that you go to, because Mozilla is a nonprofit that cares. And together with their tech skills, other people who have deeper pockets, who've been doing this longer. Ford Foundation is started by Henry Ford of the Model T's brother. And they're sitting on $1 billion of money, billions, awarding millions. All these organizations were already giving $50 million a year to try to create public interest technologists, but now they got together and they're giving an additional maybe 10 million or something like that towards this goal. Right now, the people who've gotten this are New America Foundation, their Open Tech Institute there. They have this thing called Tech Congress, which is getting technologists to work with government officials. You might think the government has awesome tech people, but sometimes the people signing bills that affect us every day for the work that we do and the things that we believe in, the apps and the code that we write, they have no idea how it works, and it's dangerous. So this initiative is getting technologists to spend a year with a congressperson, to go to DC and teach them about tech and make a difference. There are other people who've received this money. There's Mozilla has an MIT Media Lab, and they work with different executives to teach them about technology, teach them about digital safety, steer them in the right direction, because you're not going to get that anywhere else. Public interest technologists are part of all these things. Harvard University's Data Privacy Lab, Code for America. This money comes from NetGain. The Media Democracy Fund, which is part of New Venture Funds, which is an organization that can give you the funding you need if you're going to do something that helps people. In a world of fake news, in a world of all this chaos, what are we using our skills for? You don't have to go alone. You don't have to sit there in a Starbucks, You can do it the right way. I was a Mozilla Open Web Fellow. The Open Web Fellowship is something that they worked on with Ford Foundation. Ford needed a partner to help steer this technology, this whole technology program. What is a technologist? Technologist could be an artist, a designer, could be a user experience person, could be a system admin person, could be someone who writes algorithms. I met all these types of people through this program. And hundreds of people apply to Open Web Fellowship. They only picked, when I was a fellow, 8 people. It was like winning the lottery. It literally changed my life. With this fellowship, I was awarded $60,000, $3,000 about technology budget to build something for my lab. And I was made to go around the world, meeting with all kinds of experts in the field and dignitaries, all paid for by Mozilla and Ford. I was speaking at conferences, and a lot of the work that I did quietly was now picking up and getting a lot of attention. This program puts people in organizations like Amnesty International, the ACLU, Holler Back. You don't need to do anything but apply, and then if you get it, you don't have to take it. You worry about it, Maybe you will, and maybe you'll take that ridiculous pay cut, right? And you're not working the same way. It feels great when you walk out of work and the sun's still up. It's pretty wild. There's another group called Institute for the Future, or as they call it, the Institute. It's very Dharma Initiative, I know, but stay with me on it, They have a thing, the Future for Good, because they know that the world needs technologists, and they're in Palo Alto, where technologists swim, right? And they create this think tank that's going to take technologists and intersect them with the right moment in a government or in a policy discussion or with commercial organizations to come up with ideas of what the future will be like that only a futurist and a technologist can come up with. If you get this fellowship, it's kind of a one-year commitment, but it's very lightweight. With Mozilla, you have to move. If the host organization is in Hong Kong, you have to go to Hong Kong. They get you the visa, they get you the money, People I met were from Africa, India, England, even San Francisco, Institute for the Future, it's like I went to one event, I went to Iceland. It was amazing. I met with the Pirate Party, people who I've read about and known of for a long time, and members who I've met in hacker conferences. But now I was there with the people who were in Iceland trying to make the party do great work, After you do this, maybe like 3-day conference thing, you have to do some video chats, maybe go to an event that they have, and that's it. They don't ask a lot of you. Not all these fellowships are things that you can do that you have to leave your job for. Some of them you can just work out with your manager, New America Cybersecurity Initiative has cybersecurity policy fellows. Hacking is everywhere. And if this past election hasn't taught us anything, it's that our enemies are everywhere inside our computers, right? And if the people creating policy for this nation don't understand truly anything about cybersecurity, information security, then the policies can be wrong. And they can hurt the freedom of the internet and actually end up not being effective. So with this, the policy fellows, they write a research paper. They're given a stipend for the paper. They attend 2 events, New America's New America annual event and New America's The Future of War, which I think is a little presumptuous, but cyber war is a real thing. At the Future of War, you're surrounded by people with all kinds of medals on their jackets. Hackers who work in little boxes for the US government. Ford Foundation has a thing called a Tech Fellow program. The Tech Fellow program is like a longer commitment. It's 2 years, and you have to go to New York and work for the Ford Foundation. Ford Foundation pays for you to move, pays for you to fly over there, and you work in the Ford Foundation, making them better, because they need technologists. They need your code, but they really need your minds, your aspirations, and your dreams to help steer this foundation to make sure that they're giving the right way, helping nations and countries all over this world, and helping people right next door. And if you watch PBS, I'm sure you're going to see Ford Foundation on some documentary that you watched. Tech Congress, which I brought up before, is getting technologists with congressmen. And the application for Tech Congress is due yesterday. So send it out immediately. I don't know. Congress, maybe they don't even notice, right? Tech Congress is amazing. I know some of the fellows who were chosen for this last cohort, and they're really affecting real change. One conversation can stop something that would need to be, EFF would have to sign a newsletter for 3 months and people marching in the streets, right? It's a better way to do it. As a hacker, I want to help people by hacking around the problems, but by policy decisions changing, the problems don't exist to begin with. And policymakers need our voice and our understanding. Code for America, with this program, you're away for 9 months. You're with a team of 3 people, again, working to make government better. This is a job opening that's actually a normal salary. I know you guys were like, well, those numbers, right? Hurt my eyes. It's competitive. But because I'm a cyber person, kind of infosec person, this is more for those people. So if you're curious about security, if you feel like you can advise people and talk to them about it, this is to help the Hewlett Foundation decide how best to spend these cybersecurity funds. And this application, if you're interested, take a picture of that and just check it out as soon as possible, okay? So what if you don't want to take all this money and start your big startup, or mini startup, actually, right? And what if you don't want to go away on a sabbatical or find a new job and go get a fellowship? I mean, you might as well it's like the lottery, just enter, that's what I say. Worry about it. If they pick you, you could be like, I don't want to do it, They'll pick someone else. But if you don't want to do that either, how else can we do good? We can go to conferences, because conference budgets are cray, right? And it's like use it or lose it, right? We can go to conferences that actually help us feed that part of ourselves and get us more in line with our politics. Conferences where our voices actually change events in this world. So that's what these are. Institute for the Future has an event coming up in Palo Alto called Reconfiguring Reality, which is super creepy from a group called the Institute, but I believe in it. I'm going to be there. I'm going to be there talking to these leaders and listening to them as well, and watching presentations. And if any of you live in Palo Alto, reach out to the Institute. Say you're interested in finding out how you can attend. There's a group called Aspiration Tech, a group that probably a lot of people here. Who's heard of Aspiration Tech? Anybody? Whoa. I got to give you something. OK, Aspiration Tech is an organization that works with nonprofit open source developers, right? Make sure that they can build tools that activists need. If you go to the Aspiration Tech Nonprofit Developer Summit, just check it out. It's in Oakland. Anyone in the San Francisco, Oakland kind of Bay Area, check it out. You know, you'll meet activists from around this country and maybe even around this world. Hear about their real problems, and you'll laugh at how easy it is to find a tech solution to it. Aspiration can help you get funding, even get the right people to solve these problems. I found that these developers who work in the nonprofit space, these developers who work in open source on these real problems, they're doing amazing things, and they're highly skilled. I was working, when I worked for CNN and the New York Times, you know, our user stories, we were trying to delight users. We were trying to help customers, you know, spend their money or get their thing, you know, jump in their car and get to where they're going. But here, we're actually assisting human beings. There's the Chaos Computer Club, which that conference is in December. So if you hate your family, definitely go to it, right, during the holidays, right? I go to the Chaos Computer Club conference. This year, it's in Leipzig. Normally, it was in Hamburg, but that conference center sold out once a year for this conference. They were like, it's the only time we make money. We got to, you know, make this place smaller, and the conference could not be there. If you're interested, even a little bit, in application security, security at all, or if you're not interested at all, but you have something to contribute as someone who, you know, is a master of agile or user experience or design. Because if you've used any of these apps that will keep people alive, you'll realize that they're designed horribly, you know? When you go to Chaos Computer Club, their conference is the 34th one, you'll meet people from, like I've met people who have only known as handles on IRC, you know? I met people who, you know, I had to meet with in like a random bar in like Cairo, and here they are walking around, you know? It's like the world comes to you. So even though your family's here and the conference is there, it's worth it because so many people attend. So definitely look into it if you've not heard of it. At least attend once. There's a conference called the Internet Freedom Festival, which is near and dear to my heart. It was started as the Circumvention Technology Conference, but that was a kind of weird, clunky conference name, right? What do you think? Yeah? All right. So Internet Freedom Festival it was. It's in Valencia, Spain. So I know it's a hardship to go to Valencia and eat oranges and drink fresh orange juice in the sun. But the conference is usually like a week or something, but I think it's only going to be like 4 or 5 days next year. Think about going. It doesn't cost anything. I think your manager's going to love that. Just got to get your hotel and your flight covered. You'll meet the people who write the Tails operating system, Tor, the browser that secures where you are, how you're browsing, protects your privacy, you know? People who work on Signal, people who work on apps that you've never heard of, people who need those apps from Iran, Iraq, Africa, countries like Zimbabwe, Nigeria. I remember I was working with LGBTQI folks in South Africa. You know, it's really dangerous there. And as an activist just fighting to liberate your people and be yourself, be your true self, you could be killed. The group I worked with gathered these people. We met, and I helped them with their digital security stuff. And some of those people I saw later at this conference, IFF. Republica 17 is kind of like South by Southwest, but German. I know, it's kind of weird. It's insane. It's like super huge, giant conference halls, media all over the place. There's people there from apps and all kinds of code development things that you've heard of, but a lot of it is very European. And you know, for people who consider themselves really global, I meet so many developers who don't realize that people solve problems differently in other parts of the world. And when you go to Republica, you'll see this and meet people who think totally different, you know? Luckily for us in this room, if you can understand my voice, English is like the bridge language for all these developers. But at Republica, that's where everybody comes. So it's more of like a spectacle, you know? But I think they call it something like it's very inspirational. You know, you'll leave it feeling really great about the people you met and the work you're doing. RightsCon. Who's heard of RightsCon? I know, right? It's crazy, right? In my world, everyone's like, RightsCon, you know? RightsCon is a conference run by this group called Access Now. Access Now does stuff in this world that a lot of us probably think EFF does, you know? They have a help desk where if you know how to write an encrypted email, you can get an answer. So a bunch of Mexican activists working on this like sugar soda campaign started writing those encrypted emails to Access Now. They said, hey, they didn't even know that they all were doing it. I'm getting these weird messages on my phone. My kid's phone has this weird text on it. Access Now took this to a group called Citizen Lab, which is in Toronto. And they found that an organization was using an exploit, a bug on iPhones, that if you click on this link, they can take over your entire phone, see through your camera, hear through your microphone. It's a bug that Apple did not know about. When Citizen Lab told Apple, they patched it and made a change. Access Now is kind of like on the front lines of all these weird things that happen to activists around the world because of that help desk. And they share it with security researchers and trainers like myself. And because of that, we have like a little bit of a heads up on what's coming. Because those applications that are used by organizations like NSO Group to hack these activists, you know, they charge like $650,000 for 10 iPhones. They're like, look, we have a bug that Apple doesn't know about. You give us that money and the 10 iPhone numbers, and we got you. You know? That could be anyone in this room. Access Now, RightsCon, super amazing. And this year, it's usually overseas. Like last year, it was in Brussels, and I went. And then this year, it was maybe going to be in the States, but it's in Toronto, because it's easier for the folks to get there. Travel bans, et cetera, right? So if you can get to Toronto, you can convince yourself or the people you work with to send you, please do this. Hearing these stories will change your life. And also realizing how our gift of tech can go so far. The Oslo Freedom Forum is another like huge conference in my world, you know? It is like TED, but the talks are like 8 minutes long. And every talk hits you right in your heart. The Oslo Freedom Forum, you'll hear someone talk about, I was poisoned by the FSB, formerly KGB, Russian security forces, twice, you know? Or I'm an opposition political figure in an African nation. I need help. Is there anything that technology can do to help me, you know? You'll hear stories. I went this year, there was an event in New York, and there was someone from Venezuela. He communicated with his violin, playing music and telling stories of his friends who died to the left and right of him, protesting because they were hungry. If you can't go to any of these conferences, please donate 60 minutes of your life and just watch the videos. Every one of them, except for maybe IFF, is recorded, you know? You can go to the Chaos Computer Club, media.ccc.de, and watch videos from bygone era of hacking. One of my favorite conferences is in Detroit, called Allied Media. Allied Media Conference is like a very queer, very people who self-identify as women-centered, very brown. I meet activists there from all parts of this nation, people who were anti-fascist, who later I'd see in videos in Charlottesville, people who are fighting for gay rights, people who are seeing that these laws are being pushed back and just fighting for some air, you know? Most of the people at Allied Media are really young, and they inspire me, you know? Just living their best lives, being their true selves. It's so brave. There'll be an event on the session list there that's like Tai Chi for yoga moms, you know? Or like hair braiding for anarchists. But there's also events on cryptography, on operational security, for people who actually use this to do things, you know? It's really amazing to hear like the tech that they use, the way that they use it, their stories. It's very inspirational. But they need us there because there are almost no technologists at Allied Media Conference. So if you're near Detroit or you can go, just check it out. It's the 20th anniversary. It's going to be lit. OK. My pointy thing, I don't know what's going on. It's not pointing. Whoa. OK. If you want to start slowly and not go to a conference, right? I don't want to go to a conference. I don't want to take all this money from the governments. I definitely don't want to go on a sabbatical, right? What can I do? You can work at a place like ThoughtWorks, right? Like, they're a for-profit company, but they're known for their social good projects. But did you know that you might be working at that company right now? A company that's for-profit that actually does social good. That's right, you got to look at the company in the mirror, OK? This little man in the mirror joke. OK, so a lot of the companies that we work for, they'll give you like 8 hours to do a charity event. They'll give you like a day or a week off, like it's right there in, like if you go talk to HR or your manager, to run a 10K or something like that. But it doesn't need to be that. You can say, hey, can I work with this group down the street and build something for them, like a website? And they'll be like, yeah, that's fine. So that's social good, and you'll get paid for that day. You'll get paid for that week. You'll get paid for that 10K run time, It's something that the organizations that we worked for and like the kind of groups and companies that I worked for when I worked for big corporations, they need to do that. They need to show that they're giving back. Any accountant, any tax person will tell you it's a smart move. So find out. You might be able to do that little skunk work project or that little idea for a friend on company dime. OK, we got 3 minutes left, folks. This is our planet. It's ours, and it's beautiful. Politics are changing all over this world. The weather is changing all over this world. I believe, like I've always believed, that technology is the answer. But technology is just our tool, because we're the wizards, we're the magicians. Every woman out there, every man out there, every gender nonconforming person out there, it's for us to protect this planet. Because we know that with our keyboards and mice, we can do the work of hundreds of people. So please take care of each other, and please take care of this amazing planet. OK, humans? Thank you.